WQEE 99.1 FM The Key, Noonan, Sharpsburg, Franklin, LaGrange.
Moving is a big decision. Selling or buying a home in any market, but especially today's, can raise a lot of questions. Hi, I'm Amy with Killingsworth Realty. My husband Todd and I serve the Coweta and local area. Our purpose at our first meeting is to learn your goals, answer questions, and provide resources so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. 678-525-0047 to schedule a free consultation today to discuss your real estate needs. You don't have to do this alone.
This is Margie from Connecting Hearts Network. I'd like you to take just a moment and listen to Linda Kirkpatrick explain to you what Family Patterns Matters is all about.
Family Patterns Matter works with youth and their families to help overcome barriers that prevent their success. We meet twice a month with mentoring, tutoring, teaching life skills, resilience, gratitude, and kindness. We also bring music and art therapy. Please visit our website at www.familypatternsmatter.org.
Shopping for insurance doesn't have to be stressful. I'm Christy, owner of Ellsworth Insurance, located here in Noonan, Georgia. We are an independent agency with access to multiple carriers for home, auto, life, health, and commercial insurance. We are your one-stop shop for your insurance needs. www.insurewithellsworth.com, 770-755-7053. We look forward to meeting you soon.
It's now time for Heart to Heart Radio, presented by Connecting Hearts Network, connecting women to one another and resources. Now here's your host, Margie Conway.
Good morning. I'm Margie Conway, and this is the Connecting Hearts Network program. I'm from Creative Hearts Studio, which is making a few changes coming up in the future, so I urge you to check us out on Facebook and see what is going on locally. We will be adding more online content as the year progresses. But thank you for joining us today. Today's the beginning of the year, and it's the beginning of the year where we come up with resolutions or how we're going to do things better. And for me, resolutions were always something that were good. I mean, I had good intentions with them, but they never last very long. And that's usually because even though we know what we need to ask for and to work for to better it, we don't have a plan set out. We don't have a reason why that we can fall back on when it gets hard or it gets tough. So we make a resolution, and most of their resolutions are over within a week or at least a month. So my resolution for a long time was just to do better this year than I did last year, which is very broad and not specific, so that it is not anything that I could say would be a good goal to do. Because, yeah, if I do the very same thing that I did last year, but do one step better, like I start walking a few more steps every day, then I did better and I reached what I was doing. And, so maybe we need to aim a little bit higher. Doing better than we did before is always a good thing, but we need to aim a little bit higher. I just came back from a retreat with 8 lovely ladies where we went through a process that we call grace-filled goals and purposeful plannings. We hope to make this retreat a yearly thing, so listen up for more about that as we go on through the year. But at our retreat we spent Friday night wrapping up our 2023. And we really didn't do as much Friday night because we were all tired by the time we got there. So we carried those activities over into Saturday morning. And wrapping up our 2023 for anybody includes assessing how things went in 2023. Surely every one of us had some type of low point, and every one of us had some type of high point. So we reflected on the year. We figured out what our high points were and what our low points were, and what contributed to each of them, what our actions were that contributed to it, what external influences from other people and situations contributed to it, and then what was actually in our circle of control. As you think of your circle of control, you can have all kinds of goals. I have goals for my family members, but I can't achieve those goals for them, and it doesn't mean anything if they don't share the same goal that I do. So their behaviors and actions and reactions are beyond my scope of control. So for me to set that goal for them, it's kind of wasting my breath, because unless they want to 100% fully participate, it's not going to happen. So save yourself from frustration, and when you set out to do improvements and goal setting and things, keep it related to what you actually do have control over. Now, if you have minor kids and you all struggle in the morning getting up and getting ready for school, setting a goal to get you and your children organized better and things moving stronger is something you can have control over, because those minor children are still under your watch and should be doing what mommy says do. So you've got to examine it carefully and see, where do you have control and where do you don't. So when we would look at last year and see, okay, what do we actually have control over with everything that happened to us and that we caused to happen? What could we do to change that so those low points didn't happen this year, so that things improved? What happened with the high points? What were we in control of, and what could we manage to do that contributed to those high points? We can repeat those things through the year and apply it to other areas. So unwrapping and looking at and reflecting on previous behaviors and previous goals and previous things is important towards helping you move forward. I know in life, for me, for so long it was about survival, and I kind of just flowed into the things that I was doing. You know, I flowed into volunteering at schools because my kids were in the schools. I flowed into getting jobs at the schools because I was there all the time already. I flowed into being a church secretary because I was there already and I was doing most of the work. So therefore, when I come to the point that I am wanting to check and see how things are going in my life, and looking back to see, okay, what did I actually plan to do and what did I actually flow into? And at that point, I was looking at, who am I really at? Who am I supposed to be, as opposed to who I've developed to be? And it really wasn't much off base, because I do love teaching. I love working with the children. Apparently, it's one of my talents, and I'm good at it. And I love investing in those children. I love my church, and I love to serve my church, and I do have administration gifts. So becoming a church secretary was something that, you know, I might would have planned if I had planned it that way. As we go forward now, though, I am learning that I can plan to be other things and to do other things, and then take steps that will actually get me there. So as we went through our weekend, we wrapped up 2023 and we started moving into 2024. The main component of what we do on these retreats, which last year it was a one-day Saturday, this year it was a Friday through Sunday, but that one-day Saturday was very intense, and we do a program called Grace-Filled Goals. And Grace-Filled Goals help you, first of all, determine what are your passions and what is your purpose. And how do you set goals that are achievable to further that purpose and further work into who you were created to be? I used to tell my daughter and her teenage friends, don't even date a guy that does not fit in the picture you have for your life. Sit there and plan who you want to be, what you want your family to be like, knowing that there are variables and it will be slightly different. But get an idea in your head of which way you want your life to go, and don't even date anybody that doesn't fit that lifestyle. Because if you start dating other people, then you are going to start forming habits that could keep you from the lifestyle that you want. With my daughter, I know she had some boyfriends who she considered a lot of fun, but when she got serious, she knew what she wanted, and that's what she went looking for. And now she is the mother to my 3 wonderful grandchildren, and they are all doing well. I have a son who wanted to be an artist, and he set every goal in his life towards being an artist. He kept himself out of relationships. He did not form bonds with some people that could lead to those relationships because he wanted to make sure he was an artist. And although he was a starving artist for a very long time, he finally achieved his goal of doing that. Then he began to reflect on his life. Okay, what else do I want in my life now? And so I've asked both of my kids, where'd you get that from? Because I didn't. And apparently they'll tell you, oh yeah, we learned that from you. And they learned it from what I did and what I didn't do. Because I most definitely didn't plan how I wanted my life out and how I wanted to live it and then go look, consider that when I was even dating. So, but everything's turned out fine. I'm doing really good. I love my life at the moment. And so even when we just flow through things, we can still end up in very good places. But it's pretty great to know that you can choose to do things in your life and choose to have certain goals. So on our weekend retreat, we talked about grace-filled goals. And grace-filled goals are goals that God puts in your heart. He gives you the desires of your heart so that you can achieve the things that He created you to do. And so our program helps you move through things so you can get a little bit more clear about what would God want you to do in these circumstances and what would God want you to do moving forward. When you talk about achieving goals with anyone, just about anybody who has ever decided they're going to set a goal, knows what SMART goals are. SMART is an acronym and it stands for specific. So do you have a specific thing you want to accomplish? Is it measurable? How are you going to know when you get there? Is it a certain amount of money in the bank? Or is it a certain amount of people influenced? Or is it growing your group to a certain amount of people? Or even getting your Facebook and Instagram and TikTok numbers to a certain point? Is it achievable? I could tell you right now, I want to go on TikTok and I want to have 20,000 followers. I don't know that that's achievable because I don't really think I'm a TikTok person. So you can have big goals, but at least be able to break it down into achievable steps so that you're getting somewhere with it. Is it realistic? Would it be realistic of me to do my first TikTok today and expect to have 20,000 followers immediately? No. There are some people who have gone viral, and that is great for them, but I don't know that I have anything that is going to go viral and get me 20,000 views in one day. Is it timely? Is this the goal I need to be working on in my life? And when we were looking at these types of things in our grace-filled goals, part of it referred back to the Bible when there was David and there was Solomon. David had a desire to build a temple for God. That's not a bad desire. But that was not David's job to do, and it wasn't the time that God wanted his temple to be done, so he did not allow David to build his temple. Instead, Solomon was David's son, and Solomon had a desire to build a temple for God. And God honored that desire and enabled Solomon to be able to build that temple. David's life was one of making peace or making war so they would eventually be peace, and of safeguarding, the Israel for God. Solomon's job was to carry it further that way. And sometimes we may want to be, for 20 years, I prayed, 50 years, 40 years, I don't know, long time. I prayed for a quiet, peaceful household where everybody attended church and was saved. Took me a long time to get there. And no matter how much I tried to save the people around me, it did not work. No matter how much I tried to get the people around me involved in church and things, it did not work. Finally, I was at a time in my life and I was peaceful enough that came to me. My current husband and our household is quiet and peaceful. We don't have the things I grew up in. And we go to church, which is very important to me personally. So SMART goals helps you have a framework when you're making those goals to see if you can attain them. One of my very favorite practices that has popped up in recent years is the word of the year. And the good thing about a word of the year is it can be your word of the year, or your word of the month, or your word of the week, or your word of the day, or your word as long as that word is suiting the direction you need to go. And we went through a process to help you pick your word of the year. And part of that process is, okay, list, brain dump, everything that pops into your brain about what you want your year to be and what you want to accomplish. My brain dumps a lot of stuff. And then we went back and we circled the top 5 of those things that we wanted to accomplish and we wanted to be in our life for the year. Then we went back, narrowed it down to 3. Then we went back and narrowed it down to 1. And for that one became our focus for the other activities that we did on the weekend to help us move out into doing the things that, we're going to do for the rest of the year. And I know that when I started my nervous breakdown, my word was breathe, because that's all I could do, and I could hardly do that. Then the next year, my word was authentic, because I was in a healing process, and I was determined to find out who was I really supposed to be created to be, as opposed to who I fell into being. Then I know one year my word was cultivate, because I wanted to take those things that I had been identified as important in my life and cultivate them. I wanted to work carefully on those so that they became bigger and more important in my life. Then my word became elevate, and I had a whole acronym for that because I wanted to elevate others and help lift them up and help them learn what I had learned. This year, without a doubt, my word is gather. And when we went through that process, we had, a list of words to spur you on. But when you picked the 5 most important things out of that brain dump, you were going to find a theme in there, things that would fit to a theme. A couple of the ladies who know me and have done this process had ideas of what their word would be. And as we went through the process to help you choose it, 1 or 2 of them, it was concreted that, yes, this is what I need to have. It's my focus word. On a couple of them, they've been going between 1 or 2 words, and it helped them settle on which word was the most important and what they need to bring more of in their life. And so you will see a theme in the things that you desire. Now, we're going back to the beginning of this conversation. If out of that brain dump, those 5 and those 3 and those 1 things are involving actions other people have to take, then that can't be your focus, because you have no control over what those other people take. So even though I want my husband and my daughter's health to improve and do well this year, except for trying to get them to eat right and take their vitamins and do what they need to do, I have no control over that. So for me to set the goal for them to be healthier, I'm going to fail at that goal because it's not mine to set. So you need to make sure that these are things pertaining to you that you can have some control over. Even if you don't see it now, you could have control over these things. So towards the end of last year, the word gather came upon my mind. And gather just stuck in my mind. I have a little word statue where I decorated my church, and I started putting gather on the communion table often because we need to gather together at church for encouragement and support and to worship God. I started thinking about gather in other ways all through my life, and I have determined that God has given me a desire to reach more women, and for me to reach more women with the message of healing and light and encouragement, to move on in their lives, then I need to gather more often with these women. And the way that I have set my word of the year up, and this has nothing to do with you and your word of the year, some of our exercises that we did on this weekend led them through some of the processes I have learned and that I do, and they are good. It's supportive, and it gives you a foundation for why you chose that word and what you hope that word will bring into your life and help you with. And so when you choose your word of the year, I chose gather. I looked up the definition. The first definition was come together. which is good. That's what gather is. The second definition was to bring together from scattered places. Now, if that doesn't fit my desire to bring women together for healing and encouragement and support for one another, I don't know what does. So then for me, I find scripture and quotes to support my word of the year. So for my word of the year this year, as far as a quote, I chose one by an author named Alice Waters. And this is the power of gathering. It inspires us delightfully to be more hopeful, more joyful, more thoughtful, and in a word, more alive. And then I looked for my scripture of what I wanted to achieve with Gather as my focus and the desires that I have for this year. And one of the things that has been on my heart is you guys that listen to me for any time know I'm a Christian. And our days are numbered. You know, this world is changing. And if you believe in Bible prophecy, it is coming true right before our eyes. So our days are numbered. And it is important to reach as many people as possible in the time that we have left. So one of the first verses I went to was Hebrews 10, chapter 24 through 25. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another all the more as you see the day approaching. So it is telling us to gather together so that we can encourage and support one another towards good deeds and love. Then I found 1 Thessalonians 5:11, and it says, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact as you are doing. And we just talked in Hebrews about we gather together so that we can encourage and build one another up. You can't do that as effective from long distances. I know when COVID hit, our church attendance, we had to close for a while, and then we met in the parking lot for a while. But since COVID has lightened up, and yes, I know what's going on now, our attendance still has not picked up like it used to. And that's true in many, many, many churches. All over the world, we adapted to new ways of doing things because of COVID. And so now there's way more Zoom conferences. And Zoom conferences still allow us to be together, but it doesn't allow us that connection that we need with other human beings quite the same way as it does as when you gather in person. So, I mean, we can gather on the internet, and I'm going to start doing more of that through this year, but we need to gather in person as much as possible. I know that when I see certain people, it encourages my heart. It makes me feel good. Some of the hugs that I get from some of the older women at church, it's just that made my day. You know, I know that and I know I talk about church a lot, and I know there's quite a few people who don't go to church, and if that's your choice, that's okay, but I can tell you, until you have found the right church, you are really missing out on a lot of what relationships with other people could be like. Anyway, my next verse that I found was Matthew 18:20, which is a very, very, very popular verse. And it says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there with them. Well, of course, I want Jesus in the midst with us. So that is encouraging, and those verses support what I am to do through the studio and through the community groups we're starting at church and through other things, is to bring women together so that Jesus is in our midst and we can support and encourage and love one another. That, to me, is my desire for the year. So if I have to meet people for coffee every morning, if I do our IF table that I'm starting with the IF group that we're doing, which is bringing 6 women together for 2 hours to talk about 4 things. If I'm doing gatherings large for women to listen to, or I'm going to gatherings where God would have me speak that I don't really understand why anyone wants to hear me speak, but I've got several on the schedule, so that's happening. Big groups, small groups, little groups, me and one other person, doesn't matter, I'm going to gather. Now, I'm saying this Well, I had an appointment today, and I've already called to reschedule that appointment, but I do have a headache even though I'm talking at the moment, and it is raining and has been storming outside, so I failed at my gather today. But I'm going to do better tomorrow with it, and that's one thing about the word gather with me, is gather is not innate to me. I am an introvert. I could sit in my craft room or the library or somewhere all by myself learning stuff, cleaning stuff, organizing stuff all the time and be happy and content and not miss anything. So I have to make sure I am stepping out of my comfort zone to go gather like I know is my purpose for the year. So with the word of the year, it gives you a word to be your focus. We take that word, and this weekend we put it on T-shirts, we put it on bracelets, we put it on papers we could frame and or little easels we can set up on our desk, and we put it so it's in front of us. I always take mine and make a digital collage that has my scripture and my quote on it and my definition on it, and sometimes I print that out and hang it up, but I've always got it on the phone so I can go back and say, why am I doing this? Here's why I'm doing this. Gather can help support my goals of what my goals are to reach women through the year. Excuse me. And it's when you choose your word, excuse me, when you choose your word of the year, it will be a word that will bring focus to the rest of your year. And yet, oh yes, I'm going to get healthy this year, or I'm going to recharge this year, or I'm going to rise up this year. I'm going to trust myself and God more this year. That word helps you remember and make your mantra or affirmation saying, this is what I'm doing this year and here's why. And, you know, when you build your prayer saying, Lord, you've given me the desire to gather with other women, tell me where I must gather next. Let me know what to do. Give me the push to step out of my comfort zone. And so those are things that help you as you go through the year to achieve those goals that you set, to achieve those resolutions you may have set, to move forward in your year instead of going backwards. And, you know, we all have good days. We all have bad days. If you have a bad day and you slipped on whether it's your diet or meetings today, you get another chance tomorrow, because even in the Bible it tells us His mercies are new every morning. And sometimes if something we do that causes a slip affects other people, then we have to face the consequences with it. But we can still take it and move forward. Because truth is, ladies, none of us is perfect. Not a one. No matter what perfectionist tendencies we have. No matter how much time we spend doing our hair and makeup and wardrobe. No matter how much time we spend in the prayer closet or how much time we do anything else, we are never going to be perfect. If we were perfect, then we would not have needed this perfect sacrifice in Jesus Christ, and we would not need to be settling or learning how to grow more and more as we go. If we had reached perfectionism, we would not be human anymore, because humans are not perfect. Just humans in general make mistakes, and people in general are going to let you down. You're going to let yourself down from time to time, but that's where you pick yourself up and brush yourself off and move on a little bit forward. I really wish right now that I had the audio for a song that one of my friends sang that said, as small as I am, and it talks about sometimes I stumble, and when I stumble, you pick me up, brush me off, and put me on my feet again, and that can happen. You know, we try to do it ourselves, but when we try to do things in our own power, it's not effective. So if we do it in the power that we have from Jesus and in His strength that He gives us, that helps our weaknesses do better. And plus the fact that we have weaknesses and we mess up and God gives us grace, that's where He shines out brighter at other people. When I have relational skills, I'm talking to people, that is all God, because like I said, I'm an introvert that could live in a cave happily forever and never see another human being, and I would be all right. But that's not who God created me to want to get out and do these things. That's who I have nurtured through habit, because when I'm by myself, that can't nobody else hurt me. And when I'm by myself, that can't nobody else mess things up because I'm the one doing it. So I have to step out of that and be able to move forward, to be able to grow. And in our studies that we do in the studio, we learn that the word perfection, in its original Greek word and the definition, it is not that it is complete and finished at this moment. It is growing and maturing and doing better in the point that you are at. It is not perfection. It is perfecting this technique, and it takes practice. So that's what you need to do this year, is you need to choose, listen to your heart, listen to your head, check out your experiences, wrap up last year, and come up with a new way of and everything that you want to achieve this year. Check it out with God. Make sure it fits with the purpose that He has set for your life. And invite Him into these things to guide and direct you and to help you achieve what is the desires of your heart. Set your goals, but know that every day is not going to be a goal accomplishing day. I was talking to a friend about the health group that we're starting. They have cheat days. It's because if you try 7 days a week all the time to eat exactly right, it's going to be hard and you're going to fail. And when you fail and when you crash, then you knock yourself down and you have a hard time picking yourself up and going again. So they have cheat days built into this diet that you can have this day. You can go into this day knowing it's birthday party day or it's buffet day and I'm going to eat what I want, but that's okay because the other 6 days I did what I needed to for my health. So I invite you to walk with me this year into the purpose that you were created for and to use your word of the year to help guide and to focus you. If you want to talk more about it, you can reach out to me. You can look up the studio on Facebook. You can call me at the numbers that I have listed online. You can reach out and text and message me, and I'd be happy to talk more with you about it because apparently when I start talking, I don't know when to be quiet. So I wish you the very best of everything this year in your life, and I will talk to you more next time. Bye.
You have been tuned in to Heart to Heart Radio, presented by Connecting Hearts Network, connecting women to resources and one another. Located at 3 Bullsboro Drive here in Noonan. Tune in next week for another episode of Heart to Heart Radio with Margie Conway.